Zing.
This is my Dutch friend Bergen. We were both in Hanover to make an experience abroad.
Okay, stop. I want to tell an anecdote.
Okay.
You know why Dutch people are so tall? We're the tallest in the world.
Exactly, yeah.
Because we're under sea level. So if we drown, we just we're above the water, so we can still breathe. That's why we're the tallest people on Earth.
Together we shared a lot of house parties where we drank beer.
So fast! What the hell?
And we shared also great conversation through which I could discover the Netherlands from an inside and totally different perspective. We was really nice friends since we met. He's a very funny guy. You can't be bored with him. There's always something to talk about. One night we was outside to shoot a photo project together and I had an idea. So when I went home, I wrote a message that was asking him if I could stay at his place in the Netherlands for a weekend, if he could show me the Dutch way of living. And the answer was yes. Everything in the Netherlands is so close. How is it possible?
That was an eye-opener for me, is how close everything is in the Netherlands. I live in the middle of the Netherlands and the 4 biggest cities, they're 1 hour train ride from my home, within 1 hour train ride. And that's insane, because no other country, this many people has that, you know? You have everything you need. I can cycle within half an hour, everything I need is there. Hospital, cinema, supermarket, within half an hour by bike. I have everything I need, and I think that's amazing.
To prove how everything is so close in the Netherlands, Bergen, Peter and I went out for a day road trip to some really cool places. After just 43 minutes of driving, we arrived to the biggest castle in the Netherlands. Because everything is so flat here and there aren't hills to protect the castle, this one has been built on water. After some drone shots at the castle, we was pretty hungry. If you visit the Netherlands, you have to eat at the snack bar. And we went to a really fancy one.
This is a snack bar. It's typical Dutch. Fried food. You've got fries, you've got snacks. It's mostly meat, but you've got some cheese, snacks, and it's amazing. But this is like a really fancy place.
After eating, we went back to the car. We drove 50 minutes to Amersfoort.
I do have a map in my room with all the roads I've cycled. I live in the middle and I went to like the total top of the Netherlands, like the north, by bike once, to there and back in 5 days, 4 days of cycling. Yeah, it was amazing. Just, you know, cycling is the best way to properly get to see something, a place. Like if you cycle through a little village, you are slow enough to take in everything, fast enough to, like walking it takes so long. And cycling, you just go 4 times as fast. By car, you just, and you're out of the village and you don't see anything. I went to Amsterdam by bike once. It was a long bike ride. I think it was 150 or 170 kilometers on one day. Dutch people, they cycle in every type of weather. I've been like soaking wet, which, you know, if you gotta cycle, you gotta cycle, you know. And if you turn out wet at work, no one cares because they're like, oh, shit, that happens to me as well, you know. Do you want a towel? Sometimes the wind is so hard and it's like double the time you need than normally and you're exhausted because like, but it's just a part of everyone does it, and we cycle on every type of weather. There aren't everywhere like cycling lanes, but some places you can just cycle on the right side of like on the road. It's not dangerous here, because in other places, other countries I heard, it's just like, oh, why would you do that? That's so dangerous, cycling on like a small farmer road. Well, everyone cycles, everyone knows what it's like to be a cyclist, because everyone in the Netherlands is a cyclist. So they take in that they need to be careful, because they don't want to be run over themselves when they cycle, so they don't want to run over anyone else, you know? To be. Some people call it a tourist trap, because it's just students, international people and tourists. It's a very, very pretty city, but it's just very full and very crowded and expensive. But I love it. It's very nice. You know, I live an hour, like an hour by train, an hour by car from there, and it just feels so far away. Foreign people, if they go to Netherlands, they almost always end up in Amsterdam, because it's just the most other foreign people. Most jobs are there. But I would kind of recommend, a little bit out of Amsterdam, or like Rotterdam. Rotterdam is also really nice. You know, if you want to go to Amsterdam, it's just one hour train ride, not even. It's very accessible. People want to move to Amsterdam, but like, especially for students, student housing and normal housing, for starters, it's insanely expensive in the Netherlands. Nowadays, it's just like houses are 2 times as expensive as 5 or 6 years ago, which is insane. 2, there's not enough housing. They didn't build enough during the crisis. During the crisis, houses were empty, and then they were like, oh, we don't need to build. And now the economy is doing great. Everyone wants to move out of their parents' house, or want to move out of the student flat, and then they want to live in a starter house, buy or rent. This is just very hard. So especially the big cities like Amsterdam, Utrecht, Rotterdam, The Hague, it's just insanely expensive. And people want to live there, but it's just hard. Weed situation is really weird in the Netherlands. Like, the Netherlands is known for weed because we were the first country to legalize it and have like shops. So Amsterdam was like the country, and still is the city to go for sex and drugs. It's always been that way. And that's because Amsterdam is built on trade. And the Netherlands always was a very tolerant country, like during the times like 1600s, 1500s, when if there was one religion in a city or in a country, people had to follow that religion. But in Amsterdam, they were like, nah, as long as people trade and they pay money, they can follow whatever religion they want. And that is how the Amsterdam turned out to legalize weed, because they were like, if it makes money, fine, we will legalize it. In the law, it's really weird, because shops are allowed to sell it, but they cannot buy it. So that means that they allow it, but it's not legal. So if you get caught growing more than 5 plants in your garden or in your shed, then you have a fine, or you get thrown in jail. But if a shop with a license sells it, it's fine. So then you can ask, where do they get the weed from? Well, from illegal places. So that's really, really weird, but it works kind of. But I hope they will legalize it more in the future. And the same with like hard drugs. At every festival you have like a testing station. So if you want to test your pills, you just go to like a doctor and you say, hey, can you test my pill? And then he tests if it won't kill you. That's just because they're like, people are gonna do it, so if they do it, they better do it safe. All the Spanish people and German people I spoke to, I feel like weed is smoked as much in Spain and in Germany as it is in the Netherlands. And that's because if it's legal, it isn't exciting anymore. So that's why a lot of Dutch people don't smoke weed. They're like, oh, everyone has tried it. And everyone's like, oh yeah, fine, but not for me. Because it's not a taboo, people don't feel pressure to try it. Or like, they just do try it and they're like, oh fine, yeah. It's normal for, oh, let's do a night, just smoke weed. Who goes to the shop to buy it, you know? If it makes some people happy, why not? You know? I would recommend the Netherlands because it's just a really beautiful, accessible, healthy country. The cons of living in the Netherlands or moving to the Netherlands are stuff in general can be very expensive, like gas. People can be very direct, which can also be a pro. A lot of internationals say like Dutch people, they're direct. They say what they mean, and that can be seen as rude, but it can also be very useful because then you know what you're dealing with. Other cons, the weather. This week it's like amazing sun. If it snows tomorrow, that's also very plausible because it's just always weird weather combination. It rains, then the sun shines, then it snows, then you have hailstones. It can be very big changes in a short amount of time in the Netherlands. Yeah, those are the cons. And the pros, I think it's a very high standard of living. People do everything by bike. Like everything is on cycling distance and walking distance. Everything is accessible by public transport, by bike, by walking. You can get everywhere in no time. We have a very good healthcare system. The cities are beautiful, nature and the fields are also very beautiful. The future of my country, economic situation very good, very booming. There are a lot of tech companies that want a lot of foreign people to work and also big companies, because the Netherlands is kind of a tax haven for big companies. There are a lot of big companies here that are very looking for foreign people to work here, like expats, but also like the more low-skilled worker, so you can get great salaries in that as well. You know, the plumbing or something, not enough people study for it. The salaries are really high and very demand. Doe maar normaal, dan doe je al gek genoeg. And it means just act normal, then you are crazy enough. It shows like the Dutch chillness. They're like, yeah, don't do too crazy, you know. We'll allow it, but don't do too crazy, you're already crazy enough. It's just a saying that people say is very Dutch. Like the Prime Minister said it sometimes. We have some like tongue breakers. Like the kat krabt de krullen van de trap. It means like the cat is doing something with the stairs. And it's like the most common like thing that's hard to say. Like the kat krabt de krullen van de trap.
So we arrived to the conclusion of the video, and I was thinking, what Holland teach me? After Germany, it's the first country I've visited less as a tourist and more as a local. Especially having been there with my friend and his family was incredibly interesting. Sharing conversations with his parents, his brothers, his friends really opened my mind on this little but amazing nation. When I was there, I learned so many things. I was so into it that I preferred to listen to people instead of trying to capture the moment with my camera. Interviewing Bergen in a second moment was a way to make him tell in first person about his culture, his country and his way of living that probably I could not have told you better. So thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed the video and that you've learned something from it, and yeah, see you next time.